Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I've got a really fun and cute little project for you. We're going to be creating a little party favor bag. This one would be for a birthday, but you could certainly use it for a garden party, a shower, maybe a retirement party. Pretty much anything that you want to use this for. This would be really super cute. So let's go ahead and grab the Lawn Fawn Goodie Bag die, and we'll need to die cut 2 of these. Now I'm using some white Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. That's a 100-pound weight, so it's a nice heavy cardstock. And again, I die cut 2 of these, and we're going to create a panel for the front and back of our little goodie bag. So I'm using some Lawn Fawn paper. This is a 12 by 12 paper, and this particular pattern is called Birthday Candles, but this also comes from the Watercolor collection pack, and you can see it's a 2-sided paper, and again that's the 12 by 12 pack. So I've got to measure the front panel here, which is 3 inches by 4 inches. We're going to be covering that little handle on the bag and also that little zigzag pattern at the top. So let's go ahead and cut this cardstock. So again, I'm cutting it 3 inches by 4 inches, and I'll cut 2 of those. And I'm just using my Fiskars paper trimmer to cut these down to size. Now let's go to the Lawn Fawn Stitch Cloud backdrops. This is the portrait die. And I'm just going to run these through so that they have that pretty cloud pattern. Now, I originally thought I was going to use that lighter side, but I'm going to actually use the darker side. I just thought it would show up a little bit better. So I've quickly taped that down with a little bit of purple tape just to make sure it doesn't shift on me while it's going through the die cutting machine. And now you can see what that looks like. So again, that gives it that little bit of interest on that paper. So now that'll fit right on the front of our little goodie bag and on the back as well. So I'm using my Tombow permanent tape runner, and I'm going to go ahead and attach these. Again, I'm not worried about covering that little handle, but I do want to make sure I have tape all around that so that this little panel stays nice and secure here. So I'm just lining it up with that score line and attaching that. I'll do the same thing for the back. So now I'm just following the score lines that were created when we ran this through the die cutting machine, and I'm just pressing those out with my bone folder. And you can see here, that's going to create that little gusset for the side of our bag. So let's fold the 2 tabs first. And then you can just kind of encourage that fold there, that little gusset fold on each side. Now, on those 2 tabs, we're going to add some Lawn Fawn 1/4 inch double-sided tape. This is a super strong adhesive. And you do want something very strong here for your little bags. And I like to press out the release paper with my bone folder. It just makes it easier to remove that paper. So let's go ahead and do the exact same thing for the other side. Again, just pressing that gusset just a little bit here. We'll fuss with that a little bit more later on. So again, I'm going to add my tape on each of those 2 tabs. And for right now, I'm just going to set that aside. I've got my Magic Iris Birdhouse add-on set, and this creates this adorable little birdhouse with all the little dies included. So let's grab the dies, and I used all of them except those little tiny flowers that look like tulips. So now for paper, I've got the rainbow cardstock, and I'll be using that guava color, the sticky note yellow color, and that teal blue color. And again, that's from the rainbow paper pack. And then for my wood grain, for the post on our little birdhouse, I'm using the Knock on Wood 6 by 6 inch Petite paper pack. We'll be using that darker brown. And then let's grab some of the Cilantro cardstock to do our greenery. And then I'm using the Flower Market Petite paper pack, and we'll be using the yellow flowers and stripes and then a little bit of that teal colored flowered pattern, and that'll be for the center of the inside of our birdhouse, and you can see that there. And then I can set these two pieces aside. I don't need those. And I've die cut an extra birdhouse out of the Strathmore Bristol smooth cardstock, and I did that for these other little pieces as well. So we have the striped top and bottom of our birdhouse, and then we have the white cardstock. That's just to make it a little bit thicker. I did the bird and the wing out of the Strathmore Bristol Smooth, and we'll be coloring that in later. And the same thing with those three little hearts. And then we've got our greenery and some of those little tiny flowers. So let's go ahead and start assembling the birdhouse. And I'm using my Lawn Fawn glue tube. So let's go ahead and attach the white cardstock to the pattern paper. And this pattern paper is a little bit on the thin side, so that's why I decided to add that white 100-pound cardstock behind each of these little elements. Again, just thickening it up a little bit. Now we'll do the same thing for the roof. And then let's do the same thing for this scallop piece that goes on the bottom of the birdhouse. Now I'll do the same with the little wood grain piece that is going to be the little post for our birdhouse. Now I'm grabbing the Distress Oxide ink in the scattered straw, and I'm using one of my blending brushes, and we'll add a little shadow of this color all the way around the edges. This blends really nicely with this paper, but does add that little bit of shadow. This is just to make the birdhouse look a little bit more three-dimensional. I'll do the same thing for these two little pieces here. I'm just adding, again, a little shadow here at the top of this scalloped edge, and then at the top of the roof. So let's go ahead and attach these pieces now. So now I'm going to the Peacock Feathers Distress Oxide ink, and I've taken that little floral circle that's going on the inside of our birdhouse, and I'm just going to go right around the edges. Again, just giving a little shadow around those edges. And you can see that there. Now with the ground Espresso Distress Oxide, I'll do the same thing on this little post. And I'm using a smaller blending brush here. I'm just using one of my little Pick a Fence Studio life-changing brushes just to go around those edges. You could certainly use a little dauber here as well. Now going to the Rustic Wilderness Distress Oxide, I'm going to add a little bit of color to my leaves. And I'll primarily put the color down at the bottom of each of these little leaves and maybe a little bit on the stems. Now we've got the bird, so I'm grabbing my Ranger detail blending tools, and you get, I think, 6 in a pack here, and it has a little foam dauber on the end of each of these. So I'll take the Kitsch Flamingo Distress Oxide, and I'll add a little bit of pink here around the cheek area of my bird, but we'll come back in a little bit later and do some more blending here. Now I'm going back to the scattered straw, and I'm going to add that to the tummy area. And here I am using my sponge daubers to do this. And then I'll grab some Salvaged Patina and add that lighter shade first. And then we'll come in with that peacock feathers and add a few shadows here. Now all of the products I'm using today are listed and linked down below and also on my blog. So here you can see that I'm just going to do a little bit more blending here. Then I'll add that peacock feathers. And I am doing the little wing there. I'm sorry, that's a little off camera. I started with the Salvaged Patina, and I'm adding the peacock feathers just to the bottom of that wing. And then I'll add a little bit of that to the bird, primarily on the tail of the bird. And this will just give it a little bit more dimension. Back to the Kitsch Flamingo with that little dauber, and I'm going to just pat a little bit more color on the cheeks, and then I'll just blend that out a little bit. So let's go ahead and add the wing. I'm just going back to the glue tube to do that. You could certainly pop that up if you wanted to. And you can see that there. Now I did decide that I needed a little dot of black, so I'm using my Pitt Artist pen. This is a permanent black pen, and I'm just adding a little dot of black to the eye. And then I'm going to my Zig Clean Color Real Brush pen in the orange and adding a little bit of orange to the beak. So that finishes off our little bird. Let's set that aside. And we'll work on our flowers. I'm going back to the Kitsch Flamingo, and I'm using these little blending tools to add a little bit of color to the yellow sticky note paper. I'm just adding a little bit of that Kitsch Flamingo around the edges. And then for the teal colored ones, I'm using the peacock feathers. And for this last one, I'll be using the picked raspberry. So I did that for all of these flowers. I added that little shadow. Again, it just makes them look a little bit more interesting and gives them a little bit more depth. Now let's go back to these little hearts. I'm just going to glue those 3 hearts together. Once we did that, we can go ahead and add some color to this heart. And I'm using the Kitsch Flamingo first and just patting that color on all over. And then we'll add a little picked raspberry right around the edges. And later on, we'll be adding a little sparkle to this heart as well. You can see that up close. Now let's go to the front of our bag. I'm just going to leave it flat while I do my assembly. It's just a lot easier to do this before I assemble the bag. So I'm just kind of figuring out about where I want that birdhouse to be. And I'll start by gluing down the post for the birdhouse. And I'm just centering that and lining it up right along that score line at the bottom there. And then we'll pop up the birdhouse with a little bit of Scotch foam mounting tape. Now it is going to be hanging over the sides a little bit there, so I don't want any of that tape sticking over. So just make sure you don't have any excess there. Just where that roof goes over those sides. So let's go ahead and attach that. Again, I'm just centering that. And now we can go ahead and place the center of the birdhouse right down in there. So we'll just pop that in. I'm just using the bone folder to press that down into place. Now let's grab some of the greenery. I've got my little sculpting mat. This is from Sizzix, and I've got one of my sculpting tools. This little sculpting mat comes with about 3 or 4 tools. You get some little scissors, you get different sizes of these sculpting tools. It's a nice little set. It helps you shape all of these pieces. So I'm just pressing down with the ball tip here, just pressing down into the center of each of those flowers. And for those leaves, I just rubbed that sculpting tool right along the leaves just to give them a little bit of curl. So that's really simple and easy to do. So now I've got my Lawn Fawn Special Delivery Box add-on set, and that's where I'm going to grab that sentiment. And that says Happy Bird Day. So I'm going to go ahead and center this right up at the top of the opening of the birdhouse here. And I'm using the VersaFine Vintage Sepia ink pad. So this is a beautiful brown color. I just didn't want to introduce any black. I wanted to keep it fairly subtle And this will blend in with the post on the birdhouse as well. So I did decide here just to check this before I stamped it permanently. I just checked it on that scrap piece of white, that white circle we had from the white birdhouse we die cut earlier. I just popped that in there quickly just to make sure that the sentiment was stamping nice and straight and the way that I wanted it to. And then I went ahead and stamped that. And I did stamp it twice just to make sure I had a nice dark brown. Now we've got that little heart. We can pop that right up top here. And then let's go ahead and grab some of the greenery and some of our little flowers, and I'll go ahead and assemble these. Now this little gift box, this little favor box I've used many times before, so if you're interested in seeing some more videos on this, you can just go to my blog and just type in favor box or goodie bags, and you'll see several videos on that are using this particular die. I love this die. I use this die all the time. Matter of fact, I use it so much that I actually bought 2 of these dies because I don't want to have to run it through twice when I die cut it. I just die cut 2 of them at the same time. So I know that's like a little obsessive, but I use it so much that I decided to just make that investment and purchase the second one. So if you have a lot to make, maybe for a wedding or a shower or something, that might be the way to go. So now here you can see that I'm just kind of like filling in with all of these little leaves. You could certainly add leaves from some of your other sets here as well. I just think this is pretty because it almost looks like a little nest here. Now I'm switching out the centers, so I'm going to put that guava colored center with the sticky note yellow cardstock. And then I'll do the opposite for the guava flowers. And then for the teal flowers, I'm going to come in with a little bit of the Nuvo drops, and I'll be using the gloss white on those. So this is the fun part, just kind of playing around with this and filling in all these little areas, and this really brings it to life here. Now this card was created for the current Lawn Fawn blog challenge, which is to use just your dies to create a project. So that's why I pretty much stuck to the dies here. The only exception to that is that happy birthday sentiment that I used. So it's kind of fun to do some of these challenges or to challenge yourself just to see what you can do, just to see what you can come up with. If you're kind of stuck in a rut, it's a good way to go. Just challenge yourself to do something different. Now here I'm going to go ahead and assemble the box. So I've removed the tape from all 4 of those tabs. And the only thing left to do here is add a little adhesive to the bottom of one of these sides. So I'm just going to add enough tape here right at the very bottom. That's that little rectangle that will be the bottom of the bag. I'm going to go ahead and remove the backing from that, and then I can go ahead and attach these 2 together. Now I can just attach my tabs on each side all the way around. So we changed this up a little bit by covering those little handles. The handles are cute too though, because it's cute to string some ribbon through there. But in this case I decided just to kind of leave it covered, and we'll be filling it with some crinkled filler, and so you won't even see that those little handles are there. Now I've got my Wink of Stella glitter pen, and I'm going to go ahead and add some glitter to the centers of each of the flowers, and then to that little heart up at the top. And here I've got the Nuvo crystal drops, again in the gloss white, and I'm adding it to the center of each of those little teal flowers. So this would be great for a gift card, or again as a party favor. And I know I pictured it in the beginning with some little goodies, so you could put some little candies in here. This would be great for a little garden party. So I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. I really appreciate you joining me today. I hope you all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.